Welcome to the Mentor Podcast, where the most highly motivated entrepreneurs come to get their weekly dose of financial stability with host Ron Legrand, as well as other nationally recognized thought leaders who will teach you how to get, grow, and protect your wealth.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the mentorpodcast.com. That handsome gentleman beside me there is Brent Bowers. Is it Brent Bowers?
You got it.
I've only met him once, but word has it that he's killing them out there on land. So I thought we'd have him on here today and add another income stream to yours if you're out there doing real estate. I've done land, Brent, but mostly in the commercial world where I take it and do something with it and then sell it later. But that's not exactly what you're doing, is it?
No, sir. No, I'm just keeping real simple and just simple land flips.
Well, listen, I don't know anybody that knows more about you than you, so give us an idea where you come from, and what you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ron. Huge fan. Read several of your books, and I come from a small town called Okeechobee, Florida. Our biggest producer of income is cattle, and I know one thing about the herd mentality. Is eventually they all go off the cliff or get slaughtered. So I always try and be a little different in my approach with real estate investing. I started buying houses in April of 2007. I kind of threw my arms up and quit in 2009, October 2009. I was like, I'll just join the military. It seems a little easier than this real estate game. But it was really between my ears. I quit because I felt like all these other people are quitting. Why? Like, who am I? So it got between my ears that I was not going to make it. Well, I took a little break till about 2013 and, got back into the game, started buying rentals again. And I had another problem. I was just preparing for my third combat deployment, leaving again for Afghanistan, the third time. And I was just tired of being away from home. Went through a divorce, found another amazing woman. We started having babies, and I was just like, I couldn't let history repeat itself, but I couldn't quit my job. My rentals were actually a negative cash flow for me at that time. And I was searching for answers, reading the Ron Legrand books and searching and listening to podcasts, and, came across a guy talking about flipping vacant raw land and like doubling his money overnight. And I took it to an extreme and put it to the test.
Okay. Well, a couple of things. Number one, thank you for your service. Number two, you reminded me of the time that I went into a cattle slaughterhouse. You ever been in one?
Yes, sir.
It's a sight to see. Probably not for squeamish women, but it's a sight to see. I better get off of that. I'll kill the mood here. All right. So tell us, how do you make money with land?
Yeah, it's real simple. I buy it from the don't wanters, the people that no longer want it. They bought it 20 years ago and life happened for them and they never did anything with it, or they're behind on their taxes, or they inherited it, or someone passed away, you name it. So I buy it at a discount and turn around and sell it for what it's worth. And my preferred method of selling it is on seller financing. I love the passive income from it because nothing ever breaks on vacant raw land. And it's just, like, we collected a little over $49,000 in just interest alone last year. And that's growing every single year. But we also flip it too. We'll assign the contract if I'm not comfortable buying it, or if it's too much money for me, or, if I don't have a lender for it. So there's multiple ways. It's really just getting it at a discount and selling it for more. That's the kind of the name of the game.
Okay. Describe the kind of land we're talking about.
Yeah, most of it is residential, vacant, raw land. There's been a few commercial parcels. We bought a deal. We were going to develop and put 34 townhomes on it. We actually just got a letter of intent for that for $1.4 million. But most of my parcels are under 300,000. But when I was starting out, I had no clue what I was doing. So I just started mailing postcards to people that were behind on their taxes. And I actually thought it was a tax delinquent list. Turned out to be the Colorado tax lien list, the county held tax lien list. This land was so inefficient, not buildable, landlocked stuff that tax lien investors weren't even paying the back taxes. So when I sent that postcard, my phone almost exploded. And I started buying these parcels of land for like a couple $100 each.
Yeah.
And I would sell them for like 5 and 10,000 each. So that kind of built up my confidence and, allowed me to start paying some debt off, the Home Depot card, the Amex, all these little debts I racked up.
Well, Brent, who will you sell a piece of landlocked land to other than
That's
the
a
neighbor?
good question. There's never been a piece of land I couldn't sell. Has it taken longer? Yes, in some cases. So that second parcel of land was actually landlocked. It was surrounded by a state park in Colorado Springs. Colorado owned the state park, and it was just south of NORAD, right next to Fort Carson, Colorado, the Army base. And I didn't know who I was going to sell it to. So I went out, took photos. I did cross the state lands. So basically trespass to get those photos, put it on Craigslist. And I paid $500 for this land. I said $500 down, $400 a month. And sure enough, I had a buyer pretty much within about, I think it was 2 or 3 days. This guy brought cash to my house. I gave him what's called a contract for deed.
Yeah.
And he was going to pay me $400 a month until he met the $5,000 that I sold it to him for. And you know what he used it for? Hunting land.
How many acres was that?
It was just under 5 acres. Now, I walked him through the process of getting legal ingress and egress to that land. I didn't have the money for it at the time. I did not have the money to do it. But I walked him. I contacted the title insurance company, said, "Hey, who's your access attorney?" They hooked him up, and I don't know if he ever got access to it, but that made it worth a whole lot more.
Well, for $5,000, I don't know how he could lose.
You can't.
I mean, besides, he could walk through the park land to get on it. I mean, ingress and egress probably didn't mean a whole lot to him. He just kind of hung on it.
Not really.
But that's a good example. Could also have sold it to the neighbors if they were aware of it. You think? Maybe.
Absolutely. That's what we usually do with the landlocked parcels of land. Most of the time, the neighbors will buy it.
I mean, it is true. They're pretty much worthless on a tax deed sale, or actually nobody wants them except maybe the neighbors. But you just opened up another idea. Somebody always wants it, especially when you got it for $500 for crying out loud.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's incredible. So you send postcards out to people who are behind on their taxes, and you get that list from a list broker, or where? And in fact, where do you operate? You operate all over the country or just one state?
Yeah. So I'll answer all those. So I used to go directly to the county and call. It was in Colorado Springs where I started. That was the treasurer's office. In Florida, it's called the tax collector. So I would go directly to the county. And boy, every county, like there's over 3,300 counties in the United States. They are not all created equal. Some will literally fax you like the schedule numbers, and you got to do all the work. It was a pain in the butt. I no longer do that. Now what I do, I've changed the whole strategy because it's just as easy to make $50,000 or $100,000 as it is $5,000 on a piece of land. And also, as you go more expensive land, you have less competition. So now I generally like to buy anywhere from 100 to 200,000 and sell anywhere less. I try and stay under the $300,000 mark for most cases because they move so much faster. So now what I do is I'll go in to Redfin. It's a free resource. I don't have a real estate license, and I will find out where areas of demand are at, like where land is selling. I'll figure out what the price per square foot it's selling for, what the price per acre. And I have a program that will generate offer letters for me. So I send out purchase agreements and I get these deals back in my inbox. It's just a matter of making enough offers each day. Every single day, I try and make at least 80 offers on parcels of land.
How many?
At least 80. At least 80.
80 a day?
80 a day, 6 days a week. God commanded us to take at least one day off. Plus, the mail doesn't run on Sundays, or they do for Amazon.
So you're telling me you don't even talk to the sellers?
Sometimes I do have to have a conversation. One that I just bought in Vero Beach, it was for $15,000. I knew it was worth $32,000 all day long. The seller signed it, emailed it back, and I replied via email right away. I said, thanks for the email. It gave me 45 days to buy it. I said, hey, just want to make sure you understand I'm a guerrilla marketer. I market this thing all over. I'm not going to hold your land. I buy and sell these. Is there any issue with that? He said, no. I said, great. Thank you. So I had 45 days. So I had my real estate agent list it. It gave me authorization on the purchase agreement, and we didn't find a buyer. 45 days, didn't find a buyer. So I was like, you know what? This is a no-brainer. Let's buy it. It's $15,000. So after closing costs, it was like 16.5 maybe.
Yeah.
I got an offer like 3 days later for 28.5. I looked at what the realtor was going to make. We still netted about 11 grand. So I talked to that seller about 5 emails. And I remember the last email. Thank you, sir, for trusting me to get this done. And he replied back, I appreciate you. So.
Yeah, well, so let me get this straight now. On ones that you try to flip all of them before you buy them, right?
Yeah, preferably. I try and have the buyer lined up ahead of time, pre-market.
But then if you like it, you go ahead and buy it if you don't sell it within that 45 days. Now, 45 days, that means you got to give your buyer time to close too.
Exactly.
So you got to get it done, the contract within what, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks or so, perhaps. But on the other hand, anybody buying this cheap land, all they got to do is run a title search and I guess check zoning if they want to, if it's applicable.
Exactly.
So you try to flip it first, and then if you don't flip it, then you pay cash and you buy it with the intention of holding it short term, which is just like we do with houses, isn't it? Huh?
Exactly. I'll pay cash, or I'll, borrow from, friend, family, neighbor, in-laws.
Yeah.
Or sometimes the sellers will seller finance me. Usually when the sellers want a little bit more money than what I want to pay, we talk terms. And
no, I would have never
sometimes
thought of that, Brent. Never thought of that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So what you do though is what everybody listening can do with ugly houses. You buy it, give them a little down payment, usually pay their closing costs because they're not getting much money, and give them a short-term balloon on the balance. In this case, within a year maybe. And if you haven't sold it within a year, you probably don't want to keep it anyway. But same with houses, gives you plenty of time to renovate them. And so even when they're free and clear, if they're ugly, or even if they got a loan on them, you can buy them first, take the pressure off of raising all the cash. And then in the case of a house, you just got to raise the repair money. In case of the land, there aren't any repairs. So, so I like it. So how many leads do you normally generate in a week by sending out these postcards?
I try. So those 80 a day, usually, I really track the conversion. That usually gets me 1 to 2 deals a month that will net me at least 10K per land deal if I don't sell or finance it. As far as leads, we'll get a few calls a week at least, because sometimes people just want to know if, like, is this real? Sometimes they just want to tell us how bad their day is. And, I can't believe you insult me on this offer. But yeah, it's a conversion. I really want to track the conversions. I'm buying 2. Well, we just bought one last week. I'm buying another one this week. Both of them are around $100,000, and one's in Texas, one's in Florida, up in the Panhandle. The Florida one is 110K. My broker, my land sale. Here's a trick. For anybody listening to this. I don't go and look at this land, and I really focus on areas of demand. So you asked, do I do it all over the country? No. I'm in Arizona and Colorado and Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas. Those are kind of my best states. But the trick is getting a land sales specialist real estate agent to be your boots on the ground, because they're worth pure gold. So how do I find these people? I find them on Redfin. It says listed by and bought by. It doesn't always say it. If it's off market, it won't say that. If they sold it off market, it won't have a listing and bought by agent, but those guys are worth pure gold. Sometimes females like too. I've had some awesome ladies go out there and they hike the land. They say, hey, this has got $1 million view. Hey, this view sucks. Don't buy it. Or, that's huge. We want to know the 30-day blowout price, the get her done now price, because that's a big objection. People are like, I see land sitting on the MLS for years. Well, 1, it's priced too high. 2, they're not offering seller financing, because Americans think, how much is going to cost me each month? And 3, they're not marketing it good. Like, you can't just stick a sign up and let the trees grow around it.
What size is your average piece of land?
Yeah. Well, the one in Florida is 20 acres, 20.5 acres. The one in Texas I just bought was 3 acres. I got some stuff in Mims, Florida, right down the road from you. Those are 4 1-acre parcels. So anywhere from 1 to 80. 80 acres is the biggest one I've ever bought.
Really? Do you look for lots that are ready to put house on, or maybe had one on it and got it bulldozed?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. South Carolina, it's like, and same with many states actually. Mobile homes are considered, personal property. So that sometimes they don't have it as a single family home and they'll list it as vacant land. So we come across a lot of properties that have mobile homes on it. Sometimes they need scraped,
Yeah.
just taken out, costs about $8,000 to $10,000 to do that in most areas. But then you have usually water and electric and a septic system on there. So it's kind of a wash. But yeah, that's a whole nother niche. So we've got some land sharks in our community that just go and buy the tear downs so they
Yeah.
can sell the land.
I was actually referring to lots that are left over when a subdivision is built, because the builders always have leftover lots. And especially if the market turns down, I mean, I run across a ton of those where it was built partially out and the rest of the lots just sitting there. I don't know. I haven't been out there looking for those lately, but there's a ton of them out there. I know that for sure. And the utilities are already there. Well, sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. If they did a subdivision, the utilities are probably in front of the lot.
Those are home runs. Those are home.
Yeah.
I call them infill buildable lots. I love
Yeah.
those. They're usually quarter acre, 5,000, 6,000 square feet, 10,000 square feet. Love those.
When you send a postcard, what's a postcard? What's the call to action on the postcard?
So I do postcards and also what I call land offer letters. So the call to action on the postcard is really simple. We call it the neutral letter. It's just a conversation starter and that gets the phone ringing. I do less of those because I want less phone calls.
You're going to be giving away something here at the end anyway. What is it? thementorpodcast.com/land. thementorpodcast.com/land, LAND. And he'll get you some stuff. All right, now go back where I was. I cut you off in the mid-sentence.
Yeah, what does the postcard say? Here, what's the call to action? It's really light. It's not even hey, my name's Brent. I'd like to buy your land and whatever. Volusia County, Florida. Call me or text me if you'd be interested in an all cash fair price offer. God bless you. And then I have my phone number.
Okay.
Now the land offer letter, this is my specialty, which I prefer to do this and it takes a little more work on the front end, but I got a young engineer that prices these things out and he is just dynamite. He's really good at it. We come up with an exact offer price that if they sign it, send it back, we know it's pure gold. And it says it's one page. I'd like to buy your land. This is a purchase agreement. If you sign it, send it back. We'll close within 45 days. And sometimes we have to call and renegotiate because we're off on pricing sometimes. Sometimes we mess them up, but that's easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Well, Brett, I'm going to give you an unsolicited tip. Okay. I would not make them an offer until they tell me what they want. And you find that a lot of them will take a whole lot less than you were about ready to offer them if you let them speak first.
That's true.
That's
You're right about that.
So the postcard is just to call me, and one of the questions is, what are you asking for the property? Followed by, is that the best you can do?
I like that you said that.
Well,
so we have
that's what I teach in houses. It works like a charm. I teach people don't ever tell anybody what you'll pay for something until they tell you what they want. You'll find quite often, good thing you didn't open your big mouth. I use it heavily in real estate and on cars for that matter, and on anything I buy. And even when I sell, we sell on lease options, and we never name the down payment. We never name the monthly payment because we don't know what it is yet until we ask them what they will pay. All right.
So we do have that conversation with them, and I didn't have that conversation over that email example I gave you, but we now have a script, and I hate scripts because it's like you're robotic with it. So it's like the conversation after they sign is, hey, Mr. Legrand, we got your purchase agreement back. Thanks for signing it. Then we kind of go into the land. Tell me a little bit about the land, and then it's like,
Sure.
If we paid all cash and close quickly, what's the best you'll take? And here's the response. Well, you offer this. Listen, we want to make sure that we're getting you the best offer now that we know more about the land. And it's crazy how often they'll come down on price. It's nuts.
It's normal. It's absolutely normal. In fact, it's rare they won't come down on price. Try it and tell me how you like it. All right. And by the way, scripts are magic. They don't have to be long, can be short. For example, I'm buying a house from you. I got what's called $1 million script. All right. First of all, I get a PI sheet with the facts on it. I got VAs that do that. Just fill in the blanks. Then it comes to me, and then we call the seller with a closing call, and we have a script that identifies whether they're interested in terms other than all cash. And if they do, we give them a terms pitch. And if they don't, we ask them what's the least you take for all cash. Now, if they say yes to terms, it goes like this. All right, well, Brent, if we can agree upon a price, what's the least you will take? And we go through that. And then the second question is, we usually buy with nothing down, okay? And shut up. And a lot of them will say, okay. If they don't say okay.
So
well,
wait a minute. Did I hear that correctly? We usually buy with nothing down, okay?
Yeah.
And you just mute your phone and zip your lips?
You got to learn to shut up when the time is right. So it's all in how you ask. If you sound like you're begging, then you probably won't get a good result. I got 14 mistakes that people make on the telephone, and everybody makes them. Most people suck on the telephone. Even the people who think they don't suck on the telephone because they don't have an easy script and they haven't practiced it. And you're right. If you gotta use the script, you gotta practice not sounding like you're reading it. But these three questions, the nothing down question, and then we followed by, well, what's if I'm buying on terms, what's the least you could take per month? And then is that the best you can do?
Is that the best you can do?
Magic scripts, very easy to learn, very easy to follow, and it's amazing what they accomplish. So anyway, I don't want to get off track here. So how many postcards would you say you mail in a week? And do you guys do it, or do you got an outsourced company doing it for you?
So I send the 80 a day, the 80 land offer letters, the purchase agreements a day, and then I will come back 12 weeks later, 3 months, and I'll mail all those guys again. So that's roughly a couple thousand postcards a month, but I stay consistently. Now I'm just kind of, the pump's been primed, like, old Zig Ziglar talks about. It's just easy pumping, and the deals keep coming in. So it's not a ton. I mean, 80 a day, what does that work out to, like 500 a week?
But do you send them in-house, or do you have a printing company do it?
So I use a company called Pebble, and I upload my list. So I always pull a new list every time we mail because I want the updated address, and most of the time they don't even change. They do a little bit, but we send it through Pebble, a company called Pebble, and that's like my CRM. So when they call in, the customer relationship manager, I'll see like a reference number. I can see how many times they've been mailed, what each offer was for, when we sent a postcard. It's crazy. This is a crazy thing we're seeing right now. Third and fourth mailing is usually when they call. Now, a couple years ago, I could get deals like on the first mailing. That's slowing down a little bit. The market has shifted a little bit with these guys answering these calls, because I think people have realized, like, land is, you can make money in land, and we're getting now more competition in this. So it's now the third and the fourth mailing. But what's crazy is when I get these hyper competitive areas like Florida, certain parts of Florida, Charlotte County, they're like, what is going on? I've gotten 10 of these. I mean, we just asked, like, okay, well, why haven't you sold it yet? You won't believe how many times they tell me, well, I never got a call back from anybody. They didn't call me back.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that for sure. All right. So you have a company that mails them out, but do you get to pull that list, or do they pull the list? Or
I do it. I have that in-house. I want to control that part of the business. I have farmed that out before to a company. It worked okay for a while until I promoted them to too many people, I guess. I don't know. They had some growing pains, and I stopped seeing the conversions happen. We were getting responses still, but I want conversions.
Okay. So do you have boots on the ground everywhere you mail these things? Somebody can go look at the land?
So not on the first initial mail. It's almost like testing the waters. Like I want to like throw some bait in the pond. Once we get some hits, some offers, some fish on the line, that's when I go back and I look at that area, or Sam will go back, my acquisition manager, and click on everything that's sold in the last 6 months. And we'll copy and paste who it was listed by and who it was bought by. And we're looking for a pattern. I want to see who comes up. Jim Jones came up the most. Let's call him first. Rebecca Stevens is second. and whoever takes the call, and they've got to go look at the land. That's part of the listing. Hey, we're in the process of Mr. Realtor, Mrs. Realtor. We're in the process of buying this land. We have it under contract. Don't contact my owner, but I want to know, what is your 30-day get her done blowout price? And you got to go look at the land. If I'm going to list it with, if you want this listing, you got to go look at the land. And that's kind of like, you won't believe how often they try to get out of that. Then they don't get the deal.
Yeah. All right. So you do this all online. You don't go look at the land.
No.
Just like a lot of wholesalers are doing out there on houses now, same thing. It really don't matter to you what state you're doing it in, because when you flip it, you're going to advertise it there, and a check is a check, and it don't say where it came from on there, does it?
No.
Okay. All right. So how many pieces of this land would you say you buy in a year?
So this year last year I did roughly about 47 parcels. That was just buy and sell. Consider it one. The year before we did a lot more than that, but here was the thing. It was a volume game then, and there were smaller deals. This year I'm on track to do about 26 parcels. And the reason why less parcels is I'm going for bigger, more meat on the bone, more seller financing deals, because again, I'm in just, almost maintain mode. But if we're going to do a deal, I want to be paid on it. I've done many deals that I just got maybe $5,000 on. That doesn't excite me anymore. We got to do bigger, better deals.
Yeah, I know. The more money you make, the more you want. I get it. That's called greed, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, Brent. Okay. All right. Anything else that I missed that I probably should have asked you?
No, this is a good time. I would just say, like, people go out and take action. You got all the resources here. Just listening to this podcast, go out there and take action and time block it and change your life. Being broke is a choice.
Yep. And education is worthless without implementation. You actually have to do something other than learn. All right. Well, let's give them that website one more time for you. thementorpodcast.com/land, LAND. And if you happen to be watching this and you don't know who I am or what I do, you can go to ronlegrand.com and get a real good idea, or YouTube, or any of the social media sites, and I'll be all over the place. All right. Well, thank you, sir. Pleasure talking to you.
God bless. I was just looking on my bookshelf. Where's that book? The less I do, the more I make. I know it's somewhere over there, but I should have had it pulled out.
Should be on everybody's bookshelf.
It is.
Yeah. All right. I wrote it for our listeners who don't know. All right. Well, thank you, sir.
God bless. Thank you, Ron.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
That's all for this edition of the Mentor Podcast. To connect with Ron and learn how you can attain financial freedom, as well as up-to-date strategies to grow and protect your wealth based on today's discussion, go to www.connectwiththementor.com.